the fissure between China and the US is going to continue to grow wider and deeper. That provides an opportunity both for the US and to India to align its priorities.
So let me start by asking, at a time when there is a problem with China and USA, and they are on a different tangent altogether, how important do you think China plus one strategy is for the Indo-US relationship, especially for India?
Well, you have to look at the fissure between China and the US is going to continue to grow wider and deeper. That provides an opportunity both for the US and to India to align its priorities. What is India's priorities? More capital coming in, more investment, more technology transfer. US is looking at de-risking its supply chain from China, looking at market opportunity in India. So it's a win-win value proposition for both countries. And that's the reason Prime Minister, when he was visiting Washington, D.C., it was a tremendous successful trip because for the first time, both countries are aligned geopolitically, economically, technologically, in other aspects of the relationship.
So we have seen that India hasn't taken any side in the present geopolitical conflict in terms of Ukraine and this thing. And you see that yesterday, BRICS has also decided to increase 5 more countries. So how do you see United States and India in this situation where India hasn't taken any stand in terms of which side it's going to align?
Well, India does not need to take a stand because United States drives its own interest. India has to drive its own interests. United States keeps a relationship with Pakistan. United States keeps relationship with other countries. India does not object to that. India is a sovereign nation. It has to protect its rights, protect its interest, and if it takes no sides on the case of Ukraine and Russia, that's India's decision.
So what exactly do you think are the 2-3 main issues that are creating a problem in the, whether it be food prices, whether it is the oil prices? What do you think are the key challenges facing the global economy right now, and where do you see India there?
Well, when you look at the global economy, if you just start with food, there's a massive disruption. Ukraine was supplying almost 20% of the global wheat. Ukraine was supplying over 20% of sunflower oil to the rest of the world. And Ukraine was supplying substantial amount of fertilizer to the rest of the world. So when you have a war, the supply chain gets disrupted. And poor countries get impacted dramatically from that supply chain. So what we're seeing is the impact more in Africa than India, because India is a net exporter of wheat and rice. So the impact on India is very, very minimal. But I think speculation we need to avoid, because it's the speculation which drives the price of food also. So you have a distribution issue, you have a speculation issue, and we need to manage that.
So in terms of what are your views on India's chairmanship to G20 Summit? How do you think it has been different from the previous chairs, and what is the key thing that you think has come out in this G20 Summit and that's going to come?
Well, I think the theme says it all. One world, one people, one mission. I think it's important to understand that we live in a single planet, and India's vision of trying to drive a borderless communication, borderless trade is critical, because we have billions of people still living in poverty. And I think if G20 and B20 can't focus on that, then we are doomed. And so I think it's important that what India has done, send a message that we need to come together as a nation, as people, to support the rest of the world.
Perfectly said. And one last question on Chandrayaan. India and ISRO and NASA are going to plan more things together. Do you see a pivot from India, earlier when there was International Space Station, so there was more of this thing. Do you think India going more towards US and getting with NASA and more collaboration with NASA? And how do you see your organization helping that?
So I think number one is this is a proud and historic moment for India. I think to be able to land on the southern part of the moon is a historic occasion. And I think it's time to celebrate and time to applaud the intellects and the genius of people who took it there. That's one. Second is India was able to do it in a very limited amount of budget, $75 million. And when you look at the Artemis project, which US has for moon, it runs into billions of dollars. So that's one aspect. So I think the frugal engineering of India is very efficient, effective, and works very well. The partnership between the United States and India on space collaboration will continue because US has certain advantages and India needs those technological help, and India has certain advantages which the US needs to bring in much more cost-effective space exploration. But where I see the proper collaboration taking place is in the Indian startups. Just like what we saw in the tech startup, Indian startups will bring a lot of efficiency into the US space program. So we have almost 300 Indian startups. I would say substantial of them will come into the US, and that's how we're working with them, trying to basically look at which are the right one, get them to the US, so to be able to partner with US companies and bring that efficiency. So I think the future between the two countries in space exploration, space startup is very, very critical.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Have a good day.